Welcome to another edition of Exotic Gardening UK, Yorkshire Kris Weekly, and I've found some sunshine even. It's been an awful couple of weeks with wind and rain and flooding, and it has taken its toll on the garden. It's meant I've not been able to get out in the garden whatsoever. We had storm, current storm, and the wind's still going strong today on this Sunday afternoon. But not everything's lost. It's been mild the last few days, so plants have been trying to grow, even though it's been extremely windy, very rainy. I know across the country we've had people that have been flooded out or had things destroyed or trees fallen over. Luckily here no trees have fallen over, but there has been some flooding in the garden. So I'm just going to show you around and show you what damage there has been, and talk about the effects this may cause in the coming season. Thankfully, at the back of the garden, the tall eucalyptus, which are pretty exposed, have stood tall and strong, and have not swayed and bent over or broken, which is fantastic to see. Got 3 eucalyptus that are still doing good. And all the tree ferns are fine in this bit more protected corner. As we come round, we'll see if one of the first casualties. Shelters hold strong here for the arid bed, although this side's a little bit worse for wear. If we look inside, everything's looking good. This is the main arid bed with the Agave montana, the Yucca rostrata pups there, Agave americana, and other agaves, etc. in there, and they're doing all well. Okay, the Brea and Marta palm is growing, so that middle frond is coming open. That's actually actively growing over late winter, which is fantastic to see. Get out of the shadow, you can see how blue that is, absolutely gorgeous in the sunlight. Over here though, we've got a bit of a strange casualty. Bamboo. Obviously got the cut down bamboo that's sorted out from the ground, but over here, the parvifolia bamboo, literally broken off. So if I look at this, it's just broken off, snapped off at the bottom. This big one here, look, completely fallen over, so I have to cut these. Very strange that they've come over and fallen off like that. Most of it still looks okay, but not a few of the main culms, which is surprising. If we go down the garden, you can see it's still very, very windy. Palms are looking good. Still got growth on the conveyor here in the middle. We've got the pond on, and in the pond we will see the fact that it's flooding. So that side's looking fine. We come over here, we've got a few issues. We've got the water's really high over there and overspilling down and soaking sort of around and under the jungle hut there, and flooding later on down the garden. And here an actual piece of stone has fallen into the pond, slipped down, and you can see that little punty there is basically in standing water, which is not good for it at all. The other prickly pear cactus is looking fine further up on the banking. To be fair, the one in the water looks okay, although it won't be liking the conditions at the moment. If we come down the garden, you can see one of the issues we have, and that is standing water. So it's flooded around here, and all this area is completely saturated. We've got standing water here, and actually if you look over there, if I just zoom in, we can see under the Trachycarpus palms there, that is all sodden, soaky soil, completely wet through. So this part of the garden, because it comes from where the pond is, from the overflow of the pond, it does soak this area. You can see the fence is still wet as well at the base. So this is a really wet area. It is raised up slightly, and luckily the Butia Syagris mule palm is looking okay. That's not sat in the water, but obviously its roots will be going into that water. This area of the garden is looking fine. and this is not in sitting water. So you've got the Latisexus there, looking good, the Loquatre growing, and actually the middle of this Scheffler macrophylla is starting to move as well, which is great to see. The winds really went for this big tree fern. It battered all the leaves last week, really got sort of battered, and most of them have bent down. But the ones over there, as you can see, still looking green and lush. It has been overall a very mild winter. So as well as the water damage down here, if we go over here, you can see everything's fallen over. I've not picked anything up, table and chairs, etc. But my Acacia delbata was planted last year, is looking very sorry for itself, almost horizontal now. It's got a very flexible stem. Well, it's just starting to rain, and you can see it's gone over. I'm not sure if I can save this, so I'll have to see if that can perk up once the wind and rain relents a little. So that's a quick look around the garden, showing what damage there has been. Thankfully not much damage can be seen at the moment, but the worry is when we get into spring and then into summer, early summer, we might have lots of issues with plants dying, because the roots of a lot of plants will be saturated throughout winter, because it's rained here pretty much non-stop since October, so it seems, and the ground's been wet for so long that you might get roots that have rotted off and they'll die in spring or weaken the plants, and plants may die. I'm not just talking about the palm trees and the tender plants. There's common garden plants as well. If they've been in a lot of heavy saturated soil, then they could really suffer, so we might see that in spring. Thankfully most of my garden, as you've seen over the last few years, have been built on raised beds. This first half has had lots of soil added, but the second half is 30 centimetres above the ground level, so everything is raised on this side of the garden, so hopefully everything over there will be fine. Because of the very strong winds, I've sort of barricaded in my greenhouse by putting these rubber tyres and these composts against the door, because the door is quite a weak spot of the greenhouse and can fly off in high winds. So that's one sort of thing I did to stop it, and thankfully it's worked because it's not come off. If I have a little look through, I've taken this bit of bubble wrap off the door and look into the greenhouse, and you can see what my main issue is, and that is my greenhouse is far too small for what I want to grow and for the size of the garden. So I need to look at getting a much bigger greenhouse, and I've got a few options, and one of the options I'm considering is this big messy area here. Let's put a big greenhouse in this area here, which might work well, but is shaded by the garage and buildings here. The other option is having it in the sun and having it in this area, but I'm not sure if it's big enough. It probably will be, so that's one other option. And the third option, which is a bit more left field, is basically to knock down the garage or leave it with a dwarf wall, and this will be big space if we use this as a greenhouse, and build the greenhouse basically on the base of where this garage is. So that would be, well, it's 10 foot by 20 foot, so it'd be a nice big space, and then I can grow plants. I can actually stand up in it, because currently in this greenhouse I can't stand up in it because it's far too short, and I can really produce far more plants, be more confident about plants surviving the winter because there'll be more space and actually get in there and see what's going on. So lots to consider in this area. It's probably a project for 2021, but I can only dream because I want a nice big greenhouse. Thank you for watching this short edition of Yorkshire Kris Weekly Exotic Gardening UK. Join me next week where hopefully the weather will be better and I can actually do some jobs in the garden.